Over here.
Time to cash out.
Will you get it over with?
I've somewhat found it difficult to describe what I really felt about Fallout New Vegas, as I looked back at the time that I played the game, and while producing this video. When I finally managed to finish the game back in October for the very first time, I took some time out and contemplated some thoughts in my mind. Why did I not play this game sooner? Why did I not take the plunge, leave my comfort zone, and immerse myself in a game where the world building and lore completely sucks you in? I've been told many times by friends for years, play New Vegas, play Fallout New Vegas. That game is absolutely peak. It's so good. But only recently did I finally decide to fire up my PC and explore the Mojave Wasteland in all its glory. I have opted to split this video into parts because I feel that I have not scratched the surface of what Fallout New Vegas offers in regards to its content. I know that October was an insane month for video games, and November was quite a busy month, so I've taken some time out from working on this video. Spider-Man and Metal Gear is one hell of a drug.
Tougher than I thought.
Definitely a tiger because he has the eye of the tiger.
He does have the eye of the tiger. Are you sure about that?
So if you're wanting to know more about the DLC and the outcomes that you receive within New Vegas, I'm hoping to release this next video within the next few months. Now, keep in mind, this game was released 13 years ago, and while there are moments where it shows its age very clearly, the content you are presented with feels meaningful and expansive. It doesn't matter if you're going to go all guns blazing, blowing up some mutated creatures or running errands for townsfolk. It all feels satisfying and you get some amazing lore out of the incredible world of New Vegas. So in this video, we are going to answer the ultimate question here in two parts. Why is Fallout New Vegas such an amazing game? Why are the characters so memorable? How well does the world building and lore intertwine with how good the story is? How heavy are the decisions that you take in defining the outcome of the Curious Fate and the fate of New Vegas itself? Does the gameplay still hold up 13 years later? There's so much to discuss in this video review. And yeah, a word of warning, if you did not play the game beforehand, there are spoilers around. I recommend playing New Vegas before watching this video because this video is going to be very spoiler heavy.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
As I begin this review, the scale of Fallout New Vegas, its story, lore and exploration becomes all the more impressive when you consider its development process. Much of Fallout New Vegas' gameplay systems all stem from Fallout 3, and that game was a huge departure from the isometric, turn-based gameplay that Fallout 1 and 2 had offered. Fallout 3 was a genre-defining title when it released in 2008. It had successfully transitioned the Fallout series into the 3D realm, the ability to allow you to play in first and third person, and possibly one of the biggest changes from the original games, a real-time combat system with the addition of VATS. A lot of these gameplay mechanics will be explained very thoroughly later on in this video. Fallout 3 obviously went on to become a critical and commercial success for Bethesda, and it continued to build on their already stellar credentials within the WRPG genre. Bethesda wanted to follow Fallout 3 up with an even bigger, better sequel that built upon that foundation. It's like laying those first few bricks to build a house and to make it even more of a looker. But there was one problem. Bethesda were already busy with Skyrim at the time, and who better to hand over the reins of the next Fallout game than with Obsidian Entertainment. Obsidian already had a storied history with the WRPG genre. Some of its top developers created some of the most critically acclaimed games in that genre, such as Baldur's Gate and Fallout 2. You've struck gold there. You've got a team that's created some truly amazing games, and it's one of their first AAA games for the studio by far. But here's the catch. Bethesda had a big request for Obsidian, and one that was looking very, very, very lucrative. Hey! I know you're hard at work on the next big Fallout game, and we really appreciate your time and passion for this project, but we have a request. We want this game to hit an 85 on Metacritic. 85. No exceptions. We will give you a generous bonus in return if you hit that milestone. Well, we all know what's happened with that, right? Whilst Fallout New Vegas received solid reviews across the board, it couldn't quite reach the 85 Metascore that Bethesda had been hoping for. Mainly because of the bugs and glitches encountered throughout the game, and unsurprisingly, one of the consoles had the most of the issues. Even with that development cycle being turbulent and incredibly short, Obsidian managed to make the most of it by adapting some of Fallout 3's mechanics and visual design to New Vegas, and even in some cases, improving upon Bethesda's original design choices. I strongly believe that this is easily one of the most efficient games to have ever been developed in such a short space of time, given what Bethesda wanted with New Vegas and Obsidian's excellent track record of delivering great WRPGs. And I doubt we're going to see that many games packed with that much content, care, and due attention being developed in over 18 months. Look at you, Activision.
Yes, to hell with you, Captain. Never bury your enemies alive.
What lottery? The lottery. That's what lottery. Are you stupid? Only lottery that matters. Oh my God, smell that air!
So I want to get this out of the way first before I delve into New Vegas' story, gameplay systems and mechanics, and everything in between. I have somewhat of a mixed history with Fallout as a franchise. When I was a teenager, I would always dig action games. It didn't matter if it was first-person shooters, third-person shooters, fighting games, hack and slash games. Those were my cookie-cutter games back then. I was into games like Metal Gear Solid, Uncharted, Tekken, you name it. But when I did pick up Fallout New Vegas back on the PS3, I figured that this was going to be a different game. Yeah, it looked like a first-person shooter at its core, and I somewhat thought, yeah, this might be a banger. Upon loading up the game for the very first time, New Vegas gave me an overwhelming first impression, because back then I just didn't play RPGs much or even cared for RPG mechanics in video games. I just did not understand how choosing certain traits and skills for your character could potentially affect your playstyle, or possibly the most impactful one, saying certain things that would make characters or factions just outright hate you for. I already felt very overwhelmed by this, but what stopped me playing at the time was the performance issues of the PlayStation 3 version. Now, it's no secret that the PS3 was an over-engineered mess of a console, and most games never really run consistently well on the damn thing, something that I really want to revisit someday in a future video. But Bethesda games are on a whole new level. They are the cream of the crop for terrible PS3 ports. I remember the game just freezing on me one day whilst I was playing, and I just gave up. I'm still scarred by that to this very day. I didn't touch New Vegas for years, and the only other Fallout games I played was Elizabeth 3 and 76. 76, that game wasn't for me, and it took me only until recently to play Fallout New Vegas and finally appreciate that game for what it truly is. And now, it's time to really analyze why Fallout New Vegas is a must-play game, and a game that you shouldn't sleep on. Fallout New Vegas introduction has to be in my top 5 video game intros of all time. The game already gives you the bustling backdrop of New Vegas, with its once buzzing casinos and nightlife already feeling empty, setting the stage for a showdown between a band of troopers walking across the strip. And then you witness one of the most iconic scenes in a video game by far. Based on what the first few minutes you've seen of Fallout New Vegas have given you, the game immediately makes a statement. In a post-apocalyptic Vegas, whilst the area is home to a busy and lively nightlife, it is also the centre of war. It relays you that there is a power struggle between those troopers and the raiders that you have, who are focusing on a different agenda. The game is telling you this is the conflict that you have to make a difference in.
War. War never changes. When atomic fire consumed the Earth, those who survived did so in great underground vaults.
This statement has been uttered in every Fallout game from the start, with the same bleak, but reality-hitting message that it comes with. Yes, people can make a difference to war. People will have different motivations to fight. But no matter how people may feel, the end results are always the same. War will always come with it a different set of ideals, and humans will always just find a reason to kill each other. The result is loss, and it's the inevitable but sad aspects of war that continues to reverberate itself throughout. It goes on to explain the conflict surrounding the Mojave Wasteland, a fight for the control of Hoover Dam, an area which generates the supply of clean electricity and water. There are three factions who are central to the plot of Fallout New Vegas: the NCR, or the New Californian Republic, which aims for the commitment to the rule of law, whilst trying everything in its path to expand across the wasteland. Kaiser's Legion, the arch-enemies of the NCR, who are slavers and subjugated at least 86 tribes to get to where they were to the present today. They are a foil to the NCR, being an autocratic group who are equally vying for control of the dam. And last but not least is Mr. House, a charismatic, wealthy businessman who has controlled all of New Vegas for 200 years and is looking to seize Hoover Dam for his own gain, alongside commanding an army of Securitron bots patrolling the streets of New Vegas. Each of these characters will get a detailed mention of their own motivations and aims throughout the story later on in this video. But it goes back to that one quote that has defined every Fallout game up to this point. Humans will always find a way to kill each other over a reason or cause to fight for. In this case, it's a geopolitical power struggle. If you've ever seen just how the realist political theory talks about how states will take drastic measures to secure the outcomes that directly benefit them, even if it results in war and death, Fallout New Vegas contains the best example of this. Hoover Dam is the NCR and Legion's battleground, geopolitical dynamite at its finest, and the introduction just encapsulates this. It's between the bear versus the bull. And then you meet yourself at the wrath of someone who has just stolen the package you were carrying. Was it a personal attack? Probably. Was the man in the suit carrying an ulterior motive when he utters the words,
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
The situation has turned against you, the player, in what's been described as an 18-carat run of bad luck, and in turn, the man in the checkered suit feels like he's caught the biggest catch of his life before shooting you in the face. This sets the stage for Fallout New Vegas' story, and the introduction has been perfectly framed to immerse you in a story where not only you have your own personal mission, but you also have the geopolitical instability of an entire region potentially resting on your shoulders.
Anyway, you ever get hurt out there, you come right back. I'll fix you up. But try not to get killed anymore.
Your journey in Fallout New Vegas begins with the fact that you didn't go out with a bang, you were given a second chance in life. You were taken to Goodsprings by a local doctor called Mitchell, who nurses you back to health. Whilst you have your first encounter with him, you begin to notice that you've been in a coma for days, and that Doc Mitchell has been hard at work, scraping out some of the damage done by your injuries near the New Vegas Strip. And so, this is where the first aspects of your long adventure come into play here. The character customization in New Vegas goes far beyond what any other RPG I've played by far does. Changing your appearance based on race, face, hair and gender seemed pretty easy from my experience, and you won't have to worry about not being able to customize your character later on in the game, because the moment you start venturing out into the wider Mojave Wasteland, you are given the option to customize your character once again, just in case you weren't feeling satisfied about the choices that you made about your appearance. But when you are introduced to the Vitamatic Vigor Tester, this is where things seem to be a bit overwhelming at first. You start out with a set of skills that are balanced out to begin with, and you can minimize the impact they have on your playthrough or increase them. Now here's the catch: you have just 10 points to decide which skills you are able to utilize when you finally step out of Doc Mitchell's house. I opted to boost my charisma and strength skill because why not? You want to defend yourself from those big bad factions you'll encounter during the course of a New Vegas playthrough, alongside being a smooth talker. And as you're leveling up, you can gain additional points to boost the effect of these skills significantly. Now here comes the most important part of your meeting with Doc Mitchell. Since you've only just barely recovered from a gunshot blast to the head, he decides to give you some psychological assessments to look at whether you're still able to think for yourself, and to make some tough decisions that will undoubtedly have an impact on your original playthrough. This is a part of why Fallout New Vegas manages to succeed in its aim to hook you in from the start. This is an RPG where dialogue and the impact of your choices is incredibly important, and it's already telling you that you have to define what will make you as a person, how you are able to think for yourself, decide whether you or others could wield the balance of power, that sort of thing. Doc Mitchell gives you a set of words to choose from in which he's highlighting what would you do in that scenario. To put it simply, he's testing you in that the choices you make eventually will impact your playstyle and approach to playing New Vegas. Once he's done testing you with word association, he gives you a few statements assessing your personality, some of which are very telling with what traits you can pick in the game. Conflict just ain't in my nature is a big one.
Again, you are. Wow. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Agreeing with this gives you more to work with when it comes to stealth, but disagreeing with this statement conversely boosts your ability to run it up with powerful weapons. Lastly, the Rorschach test has 3 examples given by Doc Mitchell. He gives out an image to test the courier's instant reaction. Like with the word association and personality tests, they determine what strengths the character will have in their ability to fight, craft, and even speak their way through the Mojave Wasteland. You can also select up to 2 traits once all of these tests are done. I picked Hot-Blooded and Trigger Discipline because I wanted to feel much more comfortable with being able to use to get to the combat with New Vegas, and to have a damage advantage early on in my playthrough. And now that I think about it, this is the second game that's actually made use of the Rorschach test extremely well. 999 had a puzzle where you had to sort out the pieces, connect them together, and it asks you what's the first picture that comes to the forefront of your mind.
What the hell is a Funya-Rimpa?
This is easily one of the strongest starts for a character when they're starting out within a game, whereas RPGs I've played in the past require you to start out from the bottom and work your way up as you play through. Fallout New Vegas presents a different perspective. It's testing your motivations and choices to determine what kind of person you are, and more importantly, how it determines your playstyle and the future decisions that you'll make later on in the game. Its emphasis on player agency is something that truly plays up to its strengths, not to mention the fact that you can level up, upgrade your skills so that you can have a stronger chance of swaying those you meet to your side, alongside honing those skills to get around some of the more challenging locations and enemies in the Wasteland. And once you've fully formed your character's appearance, skills and traits, you finally touch whatever grass remains in the small town of Goodsprings. You're starting from the beginning and looking for answers as to why that man in the checkered suit decided to leave you for dead. It's a town with a humble community and one that's willing to help you in your journey. Just ask Sunny Springs, she'll help you along the way in trying to shoot a thing or two. Goodsprings is a reminder of remembering to be humble with your beginnings, and if you're suffering from your lowest point in life, it reminds you of not forgetting where you came from and that there's always a way to progress. This is the journey facing the courier with all of the plot scenarios that have already happened up to this point. I feel that this is the perfect time to explain one of Fallout New Vegas' strongest qualities as a game by far. It's time to talk about the quest design, and to talk about some of the quests I enjoyed the most.
The Kings are about an idea, you see, where every man is free to follow his own path, do his own thing, where every man is a king in his own right.
An RPG does not fully transcend the genre without a proper system for its extra content or side quests. In Fallout, they are essential to understanding its lore, and the quest design is an excellent segue when understanding the different characters and factions roaming around the Mojave. Yeah, it's established that New Vegas borrows aspects of these mechanics from Fallout 3, but it improves on them in every way imaginable. Every quest, be it the main story or even side quests, they have a different, unique experience that truly makes New Vegas stand out from the rest of the RPGs out there. And you see, New Vegas' focus on player choice and the moral consequences of your decisions runs deep even within some of the minor characters that you meet across the adventure. It's like that one meme where you look so indecisive about a choice that you're making. And do you know what's the best part? This creates the freedom to do whatever the heck you want.
Listen, Annika. I'm the Homelander. And I can do whatever the fuck I want.
You don't need to grind out the game just to play certain missions. You can just do them at any time. Just remember that when it comes down to your skills and your traits, they are absolutely needed to trigger unique dialogue within your interactions across the Wasteland. Remember in Boulder City when you have to broker a deal with Jessup to free 2 NCR hostages? Notice that Jessup is one of the guys in the opening cutscenes who's just standing there witnessing your supposed death. You have a set of choices like being a bit snarky with the dude or just trying to search answers about why the package you are carrying is stolen. And here's the thing, Jessup he's cool with you as long as the NCR backs off. With enough speech points, in this case 45 points, you can convince him to free the hostages whilst making sure that the NCR does not stay in Boulder City. In return, this also benefits the courier as a character. You find out that Benny, who I want to talk about later in this video, stole the platinum chip and betrayed Jessup and his crew in the process, making the courier's mission that much more tense personally. The freedom to choose whatever you want with dialogue, affecting each character's perception whilst also learning more about them and their own motivations in New Vegas is genius. And realistically, to experience everything, you'd have to be safe scumming and finding a different way to complete that quest. Fallout New Vegas also doesn't push you at every point to complete a quest to advance the story. You can always dip into the side content anytime you want, and it makes you better for it in the long run because you'll be able to level up to a point where you will end up being more capable enough of playing the tougher missions in the main quest. Companions are also a deeply fundamental part of New Vegas' quest and dialogue design, so you won't be going on a one-man job trying to fight for the fate of the Mojave Wasteland, provided you do certain side missions of course. There is one side mission that I wanted to talk about that allows for this mechanic to truly shine. Not only that, but most of the mechanics that define New Vegas' freedom as a WRPG. Wife for My Baby is a quest that you find in Novak. It's not only an emotional side quest, but one that really explains just how bad the conflict between the NCR and Caesar's Legion is. When he meets Manny Vargas, he explains that he and another sniper are keeping guard of the town from the Legion. The other sniper? Craig Boone. Now, here's where things really get interesting. Boone had a wife at some point, but she disappeared, and asking about it to Boone himself during the daytime isn't going to cut it because he needs to sleep for that night shift. Once it's the late night, you can talk to him and find out who decided to sell Boone's wife to the Legion, and then they will be brought to justice. The snipers are both part of the NCR, so it's clear the conflict between both sides is at play here. But with what's happened, you can tell that Boone is extremely cautious. He's not very trustful of people, most people at least, dropping by to Novak, including the courier himself. Now you have to ask key members of the community what really happened with Boone's wife. Eventually you have to talk to the person running the Dino Delight shop, Jenny Mae Crawford. Notice how she's talking about Boone's wife in such a negative manner just because of the way she's perceived Novak as a town. You either have good lockpicking skills, I don't by the way, or you pick at Jenny to open her safe. Once you do open her safe, the answer's there right in front of you. She is the one responsible for selling Boone's wife to the Legion. You got your proof, so you have to ask Jenny to follow you and step in front of the dinosaur to lure her into the trap. Boone obviously takes her out, and then you come back to Boone to show proof of the sale, and from then on, he becomes your companion. Alternatively, if you don't have the bill of sale, you can lie assuming that you have enough speech points to do so, and if you've lured the wrong person, Boone will never want anything to do with you ever again, knowing the immense guilt he would have for killing an innocent person. He won't be a companion because of your actions. These side quests have an immense impact on your perception of the factions in New Vegas. We already know that the Legion has a propensity for violence, but what's happened with them in the side quest makes you want to hate them, knowing that innocent people are treated unjustly as slaves. The level of depth with these side missions is unparalleled. You have the freedom to choose your own fate with these characters, and there's always something new to find with every bit of interaction and dialogue in this game. I haven't even scratched the surface. You've had to sink hundreds of hours to fully experience what New Vegas has to offer, like I said before. Every quest is unique, from helping drug addicts get over their addiction, to helping a guy find a girlfriend. Like, bro, we're eating good out there. And I know, I'm just dragging this out somewhat, But Come Fly With Me was one of the most satisfying missions ever, just to see the courier let out their dark side for once. After doing every errand out there for the ghouls at the Repcon test site, we gotta send them out to space to their so-called great journey. But you know what? Sabotaging the launch and seeing some fireworks out of the whole thing whilst fulfilling the ghouls' wish was pretty funny to watch. And the best part, you don't even get any karma loss whatsoever, you just get praise from Novak just for sending a bunch of ghouls to space. To just keep it short, New Vegas' quest design is brilliant. I'd be repeating myself having to explain it all, it's just that good. Now, on to the next part.
Yep. I was damn good at my job, too. But after a while, I just felt like a piece of meat and had to quit.
Now, Fallout New Vegas' gameplay isn't perfect, we have to establish that. Bethesda's games are known for being pretty janky at points during your playthroughs, and Fallout New Vegas is no exception. But even with those issues being considered, New Vegas has still got some of the most expansive gameplay I've ever seen in an RPG yet. I always thought Fallout was this big FPS game, but what I didn't account for back then was the RPG mechanics. I fully came around with this with my walkthrough, understanding just how good the gameplay is. Most of your time, you're going to be blasting your way through every faction you aren't aligned with, every mutated monster and every thug that literally just wants to stand in your way. What really makes this so satisfying is that each enemy feels extremely unique to fight. The enemy variety is peak. But you can always choose to shoot someone out of your own will, so you can be the difference between being either a bit of a pacifist, unless it's absolutely necessary, or being a total psycho. New Vegas also has a whole host of weapons to use at your disposal. As the man of the moment, Mick, says,
like I always say, a polite society is an armed society.
There's your melee weapons, guns, energy weapons to utilize at every gunfight imaginable. Just do not be like me, entering the Vangraff shop uninvited like an idiot, and end up getting chased by them at every corner of Freeside.
Watch out! Stay alert.
Had enough.
The amount of weapons you can buy or just loot from enemies is fucking insane, and it just feels like, yeah, I'm not even scratching the surface. For most of my playthrough, I was just killing people with a shotgun. I was still using the varmint rifle for a bit early into my playthrough, until it became clear that it was underpowered in comparison to other weapons. But you know what was my jam? That big nuka breaker, everyone. That weapon felt good to use, a melee energy weapon carrying with it the power of neon. It was enough to deliver a killing blow to many a mutated gecko, a Vangraff chasing after me throughout every part of Freeside, or one of the Legion's lackeys. And even then, I still believe that I haven't fully explored some of the weapons available in New Vegas. What it also improves over Fallout 3 is easily the ability to aim down the sights. It makes aiming significantly easier. I'm still surprised that Fallout 3 didn't have an ADS feature, but the more you know. But Fallout's combat isn't complete without talking about one of its best mechanics yet, VATS. VATS, or Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System, takes it out of the real-time combat and into a whole world of its own. You get to inflict even more damage with VATS because it allows you to select which parts of the body you can eliminate enemies with. Depending on the distance between yourself and the enemy, you can target parts of their bodies with pinpoint accuracy. So if I wanted to blow someone's brains out, I would have to be within close range with a weapon that suits best that scenario, like a pistol or a shotgun. But what if I used a long-range gun? You'd have to prioritize parts of the body that will easily struggle to withstand the velocity of your attacks. However, you have to keep watch of your AP or action points. Once you've used up your action points, you can't use that, so you have to make your choices wisely. But don't worry, it's not the end of the world, you can just wait until it regenerates. The regeneration rate for action points isn't too bad. This also extends to some of the exploration and the areas that you find throughout the Wasteland. Every major town, city, or facility that you can explore feels incredibly unique, with some of these places even setting the stage for major events in the story. When you approach Nipson, for example, you notice that the town is burning and has been largely abandoned. It's a ghost town, and there are people being crucified and left for dead. And why is Nipton significant? Why am I talking about this small town that's being razed mercilessly? Well, it marks the first time that you meet with members of Caesar's Legion, specifically one of Kaiser's prominent henchmen, Vulpes Inculta. Vulpes has oversaw a massacre of a whole town, and he wants the courier to spread word of their atrocities to the NCR to invoke a strong reaction from them. The New Vegas Strip is where the story truly begins to open up significantly, whilst the likes of Helios 1 and Nellis Air Force Base open up a whole new area of side quests for you to explore. There is no doubt about it. The exploration in New Vegas feels satisfying because you're coming in with the expectation of finding something new to do. When you're backtracking, you aren't doing it in a tedious manner compared to other games that I have played before, and it's something that very few games have given that feeling. There was one little nitpick that I did have, and that was trying to seamlessly swap weapons and items without using the Pip-Boy. Well, I could have written this as a whole ass section, but you know what? I underestimated this game. If you were playing on controller, you could bind 7 out of the 8 directions of the D-pad to your preferred weapons and items. Yes, today I learned something. Well, this should prepare me well for when I'm playing the DLC next. I do think that it's essential to play New Vegas with mods at the very least. Stuff that actually stops the game from crashing in the first place. The game was constantly crashing and freezing, telling me that it was running out of memory. This is where NVAC or New Vegas Anti-Crash comes in. I'm going to link it into the description in case anyone wants to install the mod and have a smooth experience without having any problems trying to run New Vegas. But this is what you're going to need to avoid dealing with a headache like I did early on.
Howdy, partner. You've come for a piece, haven't you? Welcome to New Vegas.
I feel like the longer I've played Fallout New Vegas, the more I have an appreciation for its art direction. On the surface, Fallout New Vegas isn't a looker for a game that was released in 2010. The character models look decidedly pretty rudimentary, the world, while fitting with the nihilistic setting of Fallout, it looks pretty rough. There's no doubt that New Vegas does look visually dated, but look past that and you can see a game that clearly understands its premise extremely well and intertwines the understanding that the developers clearly had with their past expertise with previous WRPGs in the past. And I think it says a lot about the art direction for Fallout New Vegas when its developers toured parts of Nevada to gain some inspiration for designing the towns. One of them, Goodsprings, it's so iconic enough to the point where the town held a New Vegas festival to celebrate the impact the game has had within its community and the Fallout fanbase. Fallout's art direction, and especially in New Vegas' case, has to be commended here. Every town, every dilapidated building accurately feels unique. You can tell that this is a world that just isn't the same anymore, but a world that feels like it is about to get you at any chance it can get, whether it be hostile factions trying to dominate their way to power, to mutated insects that are enough to scare you out of the computer chair. Fallout New Vegas just nails it at every turn. Whilst playing New Vegas, there were 2 crucial areas of the game that truly caught my interest. Look at how drastically different their art direction is. Let's take Freeside for example. It's a dilapidated town that encapsulates the hostile nature of the Wasteland. The residents can't even keep themselves safe, and there's a brewing conflict between 2 smaller factions, and you can clearly notice the class divide between Freeside and the Strip. Watch the guy who tries to pass through the Securitrons without a pass. Is it A, he's given a free pass to enjoy the entertainment available at his disposal? B, he has to pay the Securitrons to cross the Strip? C, he gets shot up because he doesn't have enough to get to the Strip? D, he kills all the Securitrons and passes through the Strip? What answer will it be? And the answer is C. He turned out to be that guy from RoboCop, right? This part felt a bit funny at first, but it also highlights just how dark Fallout can really be. In a post-apocalyptic world, you have no protection, and it's every man for himself. And the environments that you visit within New Vegas immediately give off that vibe. But enter the New Vegas Strip, and you know that this is the centerpiece that anyone in the Wasteland would kill for. It almost feels like the last relic of the old world, considering just how dilapidated everywhere else is. The casinos, Gomorrah, the Lucky 38, it feels like an escape from that banal atmosphere. The lighting that illuminates the Strip also puts it as the centerpiece of the courier's own personal quest. And even in the main artwork of the game, it's always there in the background. It plays a pivotal role in the story of New Vegas, and even more so, it just goes on to show that the art direction in this game is fantastic.
When you set your mind to something, you get results.
I like that. The question is, are you ready to get started?
If you're still watching this video, here comes one of the best parts of Fallout New Vegas' story, and possibly one of the most fundamental parts of its dialogue and choice mechanics. Not only are you trying to chase down a special package that was stolen from you by the man in the checkered suit, you also have to contend with making decisions that will affect your standing within three main factions. What do these three have in common? They want power. They want that stranglehold over the Mojave Wasteland to rule for many years to come. They want that place more than how Mr. Krabs wants money. I mentioned how important Hoover Dam was for each of them in terms of trying to control New Vegas. Hoover Dam, after all, is one of the few areas that continues to generate clean water and electricity even after the devastating effects of nuclear war, so it's a geopolitical nightmare at its finest. So I think it's a good time to explain each of those three factions. The NCR, or the New Californian Republic, is a federal republic aiming to try and bring the Wasteland into line with its values of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. They want to return to what was the norm before nuclear war ravaged the world. Their economy feels not too dissimilar to what we have today, a free market society. And yes, being an NCR citizen means that you have to pay taxes, of course. Yes.
I'm stealing from you. I'm stealing from you. I'm stealing from you.
The NCR, however, are willing to pursue an expansionist policy to establish the rule of law and their political system across the Mojave Wasteland, which makes Hoover Dam so important to them in their conquest for power. Before the events of Fallout New Vegas, they had a closely fought battle for control of Hoover Dam, which the NCR had barely won. The fact that the NCR could barely manage to hold on to Hoover Dam is a strong sign that they're extremely uncertain as to how that they can manage a second battle at the dam. After all, they had failed to completely obliterate the Legion, so they could just rebuild their forces in the wilderness. Simply put, controlling Hoover Dam gives the NCR strong leverage within the Wasteland. They can establish a strict rule of law, create a democratic society, and restore some semblance of order, since after all, New Vegas is filled with factions vying for any piece of territory that they could find. Just don't shoot the memorial on sight.
What the fuck are you doing? My brother died at the Battle of Hoover Dam. You're desecrating a war memorial. Oh, now it's on.
Above all, taking Hoover Dam for themselves means destroying Caesar's Legion once and for all. If they were that serious of trying to take it down, they could have just destroyed them in the first place, like with the first Hoover Dam battle. Normally on the surface level, the NCR seems like the obvious pick. They stand for the values that defined our society before the Great War, like having a functioning democracy, but its citizens bear the brunt of the spiraling costs of managing to maintain a bureaucracy with high taxation, and it's fairly obvious that much of the NCR's aims just point right back to the same thing, over expansion. Diplomacy also means nothing to the NCR when it seems like they cannot negotiate fairly, despite trying to stand up for the rule of law, liberty and peace. Instead, their solution is to just shoot up anyone standing in their way. The next faction is also an incredibly important one, and one that acts as a foe to the NCR, Caesar's Legion.
Degenerates like you belong on a cross.
Caesar's Legion is the complete opposite of what the NCR stands for. They are a totalitarian faction that seeks to centralize the power of New Vegas solely towards Kaiser himself. Heck, it even borrows from the Roman Empire, where it was run as an autocracy that prided itself on its military. It doesn't have to deal with the spiraling problems of structure that the NCR deals with, because Caesar himself runs the show. But when you begin New Vegas, you immediately start to think that the Legion is automatically evil. After all, your first encounter with some of Kaiser's Fumentarial scouts is in a town that was just raised by them mercilessly. Kaiser's treatment of opponents is brutal. Normally you just watch them be reduced into ticking corpses after being nailed to a cross. Women are merely treated like objects whilst you exploring Cottonwood Cove, and the ignorance of medical science is outright obvious, instead relying on the mindset of survival of the fittest. But is the region really that bad? Like I just mentioned before, its entire structure is based on ancient Rome. Like with Roman civilization before it, it managed to consolidate whole tribes and integrate them under a single banner. I mean, it sounds easier to do so compared to how disjointed the NCR structure is. Maybe it isn't that bad. They are also incredibly resourceful and willing to fight under the weight of their own limitations. So as a military force, they are strongly capable. I've seen it with my own eyes, trust me. Just thinking about it, Caesar's Legion is incredibly resourceful as a faction. It doesn't have to deal with the bureaucracy problems the NCR faces because its power is concentrated in the hands of one man. But the fact that to even try and aim for Hoover Dam by sheer brutality, even by merely disagreeing with them, it puts you on the spot. You have a moral dilemma dangling over your head. Then you've got Mr. House, the man who has spent 200 years trying to restore New Vegas back to its former glory, and during that time he has been running the place ever since. It's also worth pointing out that Mr. House has incredible foresight in trying to protect New Vegas well before the nukes dropped, and went into a coma for many years until the NCR popped up, allowing Mr. House to use them as leverage for his plans to take over New Vegas once and for all. He genuinely does not believe that the NCR or Caesar's Legion will do anything to improve the geopolitical problems that the Wasteland has, and like I said, he's extremely perceptive about the situation. I feel like siding with him gives that level of security for New Vegas. He wants to greatly improve the technology over the next couple of years, but are you going to be living that long when he's out there sending the first people out in orbit since the Great War? To be fair, Mr. House is also a technological mastermind. He had built a foundation not only to protect New Vegas, but he also used the technology he developed to advance what is left out of the world today. But he's no different to the Legion, in that he's a dictator, and he will do anything to control New Vegas for his own bidding. He sees absolutely no need for democracy because of what happened during the pre-war period. Mr. House saw democracy fall below his very eyes to nuclear destruction, so I guess I see the understanding in running New Vegas as an autocrat. He absolutely wants no compromise to situations that just don't benefit him for the long term. I don't doubt that Mr. House is a financial and technological genius and truly cares for New Vegas. But is it truly worth it when he's just withering within a life support machine, making decisions that may not benefit the entire Wasteland? And last but not least, you can just say fuck you to all three factions and go it alone with the help of Yes Man. I strongly believe Yes Man has the biggest moral dilemma out of whatever decision you make for the fate of New Vegas. Yes Man was programmed by Benny, who I want to talk about a bit more in this video. The name writes itself. He just says yes to anything that you do. He was originally used as a way for Benny to use the Platinum chip to take over New Vegas once and for all, and that means using it to take over all of Mr. House's defenses and in the end either killing him or just disabling him and leaving him for dead entirely. This does give you the freedom to make a decision on some of the other factions that have an important part in the story, like the Brotherhood of Steel, the Emerters, the Boomers, the Great Khans, and the White Glove Society. It doesn't matter what decision you make if they are to survive or die. They're just a means to an end, an independent New Vegas. You have control of what to do with the Wasteland now that you don't have a tech magnet, a brutal autocracy, and a bureaucratic democracy all breathing down on you. But with that comes a breakdown of any semblance of order whatsoever, and whatever happens next remains to be seen. This route also gives you the most fierce fight against not only the NCR and the Legion over at Hoover Dam, but you also have to enter the Lucky 38 to change the course of New Vegas by subduing the Securitrons and witnessing some of the most chilling words from Mr. House himself. It's an interesting choice that creates the most uncertain future out there, but one that gives you immense satisfaction at the fact that only you could outwit every one of these factions and attain power over the entire Wasteland.
Fuck Benny. We'll make him pay for stabbing us in the back.
Now, we just gotta talk about Benny for a short moment. Benny is in plain terms a prick. He's the one who shot you in the head, stole the package, aka the Platinum chip, and ran away with it whilst you were being left for dead. His character arc throughout the first half of New Vegas comes across as mysterious and intriguing. Why does he want the Platinum chip? Why did he decide to ambush you and leave him for dead near the strip? It seems Benny has his own motivations for the fate of the Wasteland. He was a protege of Mr. House, and he was given responsibility to run the Tops Casino, but this wasn't enough for Benny. He wanted more. This also explains why Yes Man functions the way that he is. He used to be a security run until Benny managed to salvage him and created an AI that would do his bidding, and because of Yes Man, Benny realized that there were 7 couriers carrying the Platinum chip. 6 were decoys and 1 was the real thing. There is no doubt about it. Benny is smart and will use it to his advantage to get what he wanted. However, this doesn't go unnoticed because the Curie recovers from their injuries and set out on their own personal mission to hunt down Benny. Benny is also incredibly spineless, by using people to further his own ends, like with Jessup and the Great Khans. where he left them to deal with a hostage situation involving the NCR. Eventually, after you've managed to get to the strip with what information you have learned, you encounter Benny and have the option to either kill him or spare him with the platinum chip. If you kill him, that's your own personal quest done. But sparing him leads to more options because he gets captured by the Legion. As brutal as the Legion is, at least they give you the choice to decide Benny's fate. That is, once you've done some errands for them at least. When it comes down to deciding between the main factions in the game, Benny is firmly against them all. He wants an independent New Vegas, and that's why Yes Man exists, to realize that vision. It's his last wish anyway, because he knows he won't be alive to see it. Benny is a cunning and shrewd antagonist who will do anything it takes to make his vision as the sole ruler of New Vegas into a reality, even if it means seeing others as disposable. You also witness just how cowardly he really is once he gets captured and realizes that he's a finished man. He's not even willing to defend himself. He just so wanted to realize his vision of a New Vegas, even if he's left to die in a Legion camp. For what it's worth, he's one of the more interesting characters in Fallout New Vegas for good reason. He's simply well written and had personal ambitions of his own that do ultimately lead to his downfall. His voice actor, Matthew Perry, also did a fantastic job with his performance as Benny. He nailed his voice extremely well, and honestly, he will be missed by many. This video took me a long while to produce, no doubt about it. I was reflecting upon my playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, trying to collect upon my thoughts on everything the game had to offer during that time. And what can I say? This game got me to think about the gravity of my actions and whether I was making them for the sake of the protection of the entire region, still struggling to maintain any semblance of order after the nukes had dropped 200 years ago. It got me to think harder about who I wanted to associate with, or whether I wanted to crave power on its own merits. Fallout New Vegas achieves this tremendously, because every interaction with each character you find during your playthrough feels unique, innovative, and opens the door to something new. The extensive lore behind it might feel overwhelming at first, but the long-term payoff by being able to explore the Mojave Wasteland is felt directly the longer you play. For a team that was given only 18 months to deliver all of this, this is an impressive achievement by Obsidian. It's also one of the few games that manages to convey a geopolitical crisis very well. The fight between the NCR and Caesar's Legion over Hoover Dam presents extremely compelling arguments for each group to rule over the Wasteland, as well as Mr. House. But at the same time, you have to weigh the moral implications of your choice of faction, as well as how it affects everyone around you. I strongly believe that even when I eventually finished New Vegas, I didn't even feel like I had scratched the surface of how much content it truly packs. Realistically, you'd be having to play a lot to experience everything that Fallout New Vegas offers, and I'm not really sure if I'm prepared to do something like that. Maybe one day, but who knows. Not only has Fallout New Vegas succeeded in making me feel more inclined to try out more games from the WRPG genre, it ranks as one of my favourite games of all time. I somewhat knew from the moment I bought it back on the PS3 that I would come to experience this game someday and appreciate it for what it really was. And I am very grateful that I did. Thank you very much for watching this video. As always, if you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. It's really appreciated. And if you want to, you can join the Discord or follow my Twitter in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.